Previously, in parts 1 and 2 of a multi-part series of Dr. Deborah King's near-death experience, Deborah went into full cardiac arrest and found herself out of her body in a black void. As she moved toward a growing light, the darkness opened into a vast, living web of souls, and Deborah realized she was not only part of it, but an important part of it. A divine presence then began helping her understand what she was seeing and guided her into a life review. Next, the life review expands beyond Deborah's own memories.
And then I was shown scenes from, the only way I can describe it was life events of the other souls in the Matrix. This was a little confusing for me because I remember thinking, okay, I'm having enough trouble handling my own stuff. What are you showing me this for? And I recognized some of the souls, and I now believe that some of them were some of my patients over my many years of healthcare practice. But some of these events were traumatic, or somebody was victimized in a horrible way, or they had experienced a terrible loss, or in some cases, they had been the perpetrator of a crime. Which in my human life, again, confusing, right? And I remember thinking, what do you want me to do with this information? And immediately I heard the words, don't look at the events. Look at the lights. And I was relieved, and I looked at the lights. And despite all of the events that I was shown in front of that light, so it was linked to that soul, when I looked at the light of the soul, nothing changed. No matter what the event was, that light was bright and vibrating and whole. And I heard the words distinctly, you see, nothing can harm the soul. Nothing that can happen to you or to anybody, or nothing that can be done can impact the soul. The soul is immortal, the soul is whole, and the soul is intact. And I remember thinking, wow, I wish I knew this before. I really wish I knew this before.
Then, 2 lights separated from the web and drew close to Deborah. The first she recognized instantly. It was the patient from the intensive care unit, or ICU, she had helped save decades earlier as a young nurse. Before Deborah had her near-death experience, she was working an evening shift in Johns Hopkins Hospital ICU when a man in his 40s went into sudden cardiac arrest. The team had already gone through several rounds of drugs and other therapies, but the resuscitation was not going well. The chief resident indicated that it was time to end the resuscitation and call the time of death. But something compelled Deborah to say, almost involuntarily, "Can't we just go one more round?" They did, and got the patient back. 2 days later, she returned to find him awake, making sense, and off the breathing tube. He recognized her instantly and said he had heard her say they should go one more round while they were trying to revive him. He also described details from during the resuscitation while he had been in cardiac arrest, including where Deborah and the chief resident had been standing when the anesthesiologist came in, and how she looked. She went home that night and wrote in her journal, "This changes everything." Now in the light, the same patient stood before her again.
And I was blown away. I knew who he was instantly. And I thought, oh, wow, is this really you? Is this really him? And instantly, telepathic, kind of thought to thought communication. And he said, yeah, it's me. It's me. And it was clear to me that he had made somehow, I don't have the words for this, but he knew I would be there and he had made it his business to be there. Kind of like, I knew your train was coming in and I made it my business to be at the stop to greet you. That's just the feeling that I had. He said, I'm here to give you a message. And that message is that when we had that experience when you were a young nurse back in the 70s, it wasn't an accident. There really aren't any accidents. And I just listened, and he said, well, you never told anybody about that. And he was right. I really didn't. And he said, it's time for that to end. That can help so many people. You really have to share that. And I quickly remember thinking, well, wait a minute. Let's slow down here now. I am in this wonderful place of light and love, and I felt limitless. I felt so expanded being out of my body. If I do this, what he's telling me is I have to go back. Like, how else can I tell people about this unless I go back? And I started having, kind of this little spiritual temper tantrum. I said, oh, well, wait a minute. That would be great, but can't you, like maybe somebody else could do that? Because you see, there's an issue and I'm not going back. I'm just staying here. And he said, well, that's okay. I understand how you feel. The truth is that you've already made the decision to return. Well, this really completely confused me. I thought, well, I'm not just sure what he's talking about, but he didn't hear that from me. I said, no, you've got it wrong. I didn't make that decision, and I'm staying.
In part 4, as Deborah insists she is not going back, her former patient fades, and a second light draws near.
And I was like, Dad, it's you. It's really you. And he said, yep, it's me. I didn't really go anywhere.
Join us tomorrow for part 4 of a multi-part series of Dr. Deborah King's near-death experience.